Hello everyone and welcome back to JDD TV. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, and I have brought back on a very familiar face, Manuel Veth, coming on today. Haven't chatted with you in a while, Manuel. I appreciate you coming on. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Josh? It's been forever. When was the last time we've chatted on any show, whether podcast or video or whatever? It's been a while.
Like I said, I feel like it's probably the last Unsackable podcast, which...
Yeah,
I think that's...
Unfortunately, life happened for all of us, right? And we had to move on, but that's how it goes.
We're still in touch. We still message each other. Just
Totally.
we haven't been able to be on camera together until today. And we have a fun topic today. It's simply, as you guys can tell from the title, what's going on with Alphonso Davies. I wanted to bring you on today not only to talk about the transfer rumors, because those are always fun to talk about, right? We know he's being linked to Real Madrid. It looks, I'll get your opinion. It looks likely, I'm assuming. But what got me...
50-50, I would say.
50-50, okay. Well, maybe I'll elaborate on that very quickly for me. Maybe a big reason as to why you think it would happen, and a big reason why it won't.
Well, I think a big reason why it would happen is that Bayern Munich offering less money than the Davies camp wants. And I think there is something to be said about Davies and the brand that he wants to project, and head to Real Madrid. And I think the big reason why it might not happen is that his recent performances haven't exactly been something that would entice Real Madrid to spend a lot of money on his salary, which, even though the Bayern deal is less than what the Davies camp is asking for, it is definitely more than what Real Madrid can afford. And then there's also, of course, Real Madrid have, and you see this in recent weeks, they have sort of tried to make the fee go less and less and less and less, right? It doesn't seem like they are in full conviction here either, whether Davies is a good signing for them. So, it almost feels like that Real Madrid is a little bit used like a pawn here for the negotiations between the Davies camp and Bayern Munich. But at the same time, if he becomes a free agent, who knows, what happens after that. If he opts not to renew with Bayern Munich, I think then everything is on the table. But Bayern Munich might very well say, like, look, we're going to sell, but Real Madrid's offer isn't good enough, so we're going to sell to someone else. So I think there's a lot of things still very much up in the air, and I think this can still go either way. I think, Josh, with negotiations like that and the way it is right now, we're only one phone call away from it to go away either way, right? Like, that's usually what happens. Someone just needs to pick up the phone and say, let's get this done. Or not, right? So this is always the thing. And yeah, I think it's still very much 50-50.
I haven't seen a lot of rumors around any other team right now. I think I saw a little bit like maybe a City or
Chelsea gets sometimes mentioned, Man City, right? But I think the thing is too, like, from a brand perspective, would you go from Bayern to any of those teams? I mean, that's not really necessarily going to grow your brand, right? And we know how much Davies is about the brand and trying to be more than just an athlete and all those sort of things. So I think that although the Premier League is obviously watched more, but there is certain clubs that have this really big brand projection, and that Bayern Munich is among them. Real Madrid is another, right? Barcelona is another one, right? That people just recognize, and when you play in one of those clubs, you just have that little bit of an elevated status that you maybe not have when you go to a club like Chelsea, maybe. I guess there is Premier League clubs like that too. Man United comes to mind, maybe Man City. Although Man City, still feels a little bit like they're not really a big brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a bit of an odd one. So
no,
yeah.
I've seen it before too, where it's just like, if you're going to leave a club like Bayern, there's only one club to go to.
Yeah, and that's Real.
And it's Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, which leads me to the main topic of today's video, which is, again, what is going on with Alphonso Davies, but mostly on the field. Because is it that, these Real Madrid rumors with Davies have been going on for years. So do you think leading on into this season, he became a little too complacent? Because there's a few quotes that I'm going to read you quickly here. Talking about basically that, there's reports that Bayern are not happy with his performance, that they stated that how indifferent he looks on the pitch, how little he cares about Bayern's weak performance. They're obviously doing terrible in the league right now. And his agent came out talking about like the ultimatum and that, he doesn't think it's overly fair. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically that without knowing who the coach will be next season, what the team will look like, it's it's a little unfair to react to the ultimatum. So is the word we're focusing on here complacent? Did he just go into this season expecting to be able to put in the performances he's used to keep that Real Madrid interest? Because like you kind of mentioned, maybe if he keeps up these type of performances, that Madrid interest will disappear.
And he hasn't been great for Canada either, right? I mean, the TNT, the game against TNT wasn't exactly, oh, wow, this is a world-class player, right? I mean, against an opponent, by all due respect, isn't exactly a world beater, right? So, yeah, I mean, what's going on with Davies is really interesting because you do feel like he made a little bit of a step backwards, not just this year, but maybe the year prior as well, right? We have to remember too that there was a contract agreed on between Bayern Munich and Alphonso Davies and his camp. That was when Hasan Salihamidzic was still in charge, and he of course got fired. And then the agent, and he's been on record on this, right? Both to me and Transfermarkt, but also spoke to other sources, including Fabrizio Romano, about this. That a deal was pretty much negotiated, and then everyone got fired, like literally everyone got fired, and then no one talked to him, and he was sitting in Munich waiting for someone to just pick up the phone and get it done. And then he left and didn't come back until January when Max Eber was finally in charge, and they were finally able to talk again, right? And so the latest that they've been talking about is an offer, I think it's around 14 to 16 million euros, which would make him one of the highest paid players at the club at the moment. And Bayern Munich are trying to reduce their wage bill because, the wage bill that they have right now doesn't really line up with where they are in the league. And many of the players at the club are probably being overpaid. Davies isn't the only one. Well, Davies is currently underpaid. You know what I mean? He's not the only one asking for big salary. Like there's Leroy Sané, for example. They spend a lot of money on Harry Kane. There's Kingsley Coman, who's on a big salary as well. I think he's on around 17 million euros. So, he's not the only one where they're trying to suppress the wages, while at the same time they're still offering him a very decent contract. But also, I mean, you can make an argument here that he hasn't really even performed up to the level of contract that they're offering him this year. I mean, he's been injured, he's lacked fitness. The game against Arsenal, in my opinion, was shocking. Essentially, Serge Gnabry had to fall back into the left wing position to help him and get through these first 20 minutes when Arsenal looked like they were going to completely destroy Bayern. He picked up that yellow card right away from the start. And we've seen it in the Bundesliga too, where he's just simply going through the motions. And, maybe it is... He's been playing a lot. We have to say that too, right? I mean, he played for Canada at the World Cup. Probably not 100% fit there either. And he's, 23 now, Josh? Help me here. I think he's 23.
I believe he's 23. I will fact check. He's 23.
Thank you. So we have to remember too, he's young, right? Like 23 is very young. So players do go through these up and downs, especially at that age. But I think Bayern Munich are right to wonder what's going on here. And while offering him a big contract, and they themselves think that him and Musiala are going to be the faces of the future of the club. You can probably now add Pavlovic to that as well, right? Who's when the rebuild comes, they would like to take those three players and build the core around them. Kane as well, obviously. And that will be the nucleus. But at the same time, there is concerns here because he hasn't been playing well.
Now, I want to put our opinion hats on right now because we went over some facts, some things that we know, some quotes that we saw. But now I just want, you and I just to chat and talk about opinion because I don't think I'm completely torn, but let's just say, he's not doing himself any favors right now. He's playing himself out of interest a little bit from Real Madrid. He's playing himself out of that original contract, not even the one that he's gunning, but the original contract that Bayern has offered. Like you just said,
that contract is off the table for sure because Hassan was playing with money that the club simply was not sustainable. It's the reason why he's gone.
But whatever offer may come back to the table. It probably won't be that one anyway. So, is it better, do you think, for Davies to get a move? Do you think it's better for Bayern to have him move on? Because right now it seems like you even mentioned, not even just this season, but the past season. I know he's had his injuries, but it just kind of seems like he came onto the scene very, very hot. He obviously that incredible season when they won 5 or 6 titles and he won the Champions League. Obviously, that's when he was at his peak. I think he had a pretty solid season after that, and then it started to decline. Would a change of scenery just be good for him, do you think?
Yeah.
And is Madrid the spot?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's a very legitimate question, right? Is it maybe time for him to move on at this stage of his career? Because like, if you become complacent and you're not showing the performances anymore, maybe a reset is a good thing. And Spain and Madrid is also better for your career longevity. We see this with Toni Kroos now, right? Who's essentially looks like he's back aging. And there's something to be said about that. The Bundesliga can be very demanding. It's other than the Premier League, probably physically the most demanding league in the world, right? And that can really eat on you. And Spain is a little bit. It's not, I don't want to say it's easier. It's physically easier because it's a different style of football, right? And the climate is better and all that kind of stuff. And so, there is maybe an argument to be made about that maybe going there and being in a different environment and playing for a massive club like Real Madrid that shelters the players way more than Bayern Munich do, because Bayern Munich is such a massive entity in German football, right? That every newspaper in Germany has to fill 10 pages of the sports sections, and 9 of those pages will go to Bayern Munich. So like, you're under the microscope 24/7, and that can be difficult, I think. But at the same time, who knows if this gets better at Real Madrid? And Real Madrid, of course, also I think doing a fantastic job with the rebuild at the moment. They're signing so many young, exciting players, right? But they also have to spread the resources a little bit too. And I think Davies eventually wants to play winger. That's been something that he's stated, right? But is that going to happen at Real Madrid? I think his chances are probably higher for that to happen at Bayern Munich eventually, because I think that Bayern are going to move on from Gnabry. There's a chance they're going to move on from Coman. Maybe they're even going to move on from Leroy Sané. There's been some rumblings about his contract maybe not getting renewed, right? So again, I think I'm kind of torn. I'm sitting on the fence here because I really don't know. It can go, you can also go to Real Madrid, and how many players have gone to Real Madrid and will never have seen or heard of them before again, right? Like Luka Jovic comes to mind, who left Frankfurt and was supposed to be the savior at Real Madrid, and he's now playing somewhere in Italy, right? So that's something that can backfire.
It's tricky. I agree. I would say if Davies was at his full potential right now and playing his best football, I would be probably a little bit more split, because like you said, it's always a risk to go to a club, especially like Real Madrid, that can eat you up alive, especially if you're playing good football. The reason I'm personally leaning, and this is just my opinion, leaning towards I want to see him go to Real Madrid is there's a few fold, but the first one is the fact that he's not playing well. It does look like he's become complacent. I don't know if it's about everything that went on behind the scenes at Bayern, because usually when Bayern's fully firing, that is a tough spot to be, and you need to be alert. But this has been a disastrous season, so maybe that played into it a little bit. But also the fact is that I just feel like when you join a team like Real Madrid right now, given the way that Davies is playing, it's make or break time, and I would like to think that Davies could be up for it. I think that playing in that system with maybe like Vinny Jr. in front of you, maybe it's Mbappe. You just have to imagine it could be a recipe.
It is going to be Mbappe, but
it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like why not? Like why not join a team like that when they're about to go into maybe the best years ever?
And you can maybe add to that Bayern Munich are going and are obviously a club in decline, right? And that's, I think, is where Nikose, his agent, is spot on. We don't even know yet who their head coach is. I get asked this all the time: who's going to be Bayern's new head coach? And I always say, well, they don't even know. They don't. They have no idea. Like, honestly, they don't know. When I ask my sources at Bayern, they're like, they shrug. They don't know. There's lots of names out there. I think the favorite is probably Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton, but I cannot go out there and say yes, it's Roberto De Zerbi, because I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know because the people at Bayern don't know, right? I can only report what is being told to me. So that is not a good place to be as a player who wants to map out his future over the next 4 years, because that's usually what the contract length is. So usually it's 5, right? But after year 4, you have to kind of start thinking about what's next. And I think there's a really good chance that Leverkusen are going to be even better next year than they did this year, right? So that's going to be hard to beat. You have a bunch of teams around you in Germany that are also in the ascendancy. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then there is probably going to be a lots of comings and goings as Max Eberl makes sense of this team around him, right? So, I mean, Bayern would love for him to be a key figure in that rebuild, but it's not always great to be part of a rebuild. And I think Real Madrid kind of underwent something similar a few years ago, right? And they're a little bit further ahead. And so that is probably an argument for Real Madrid, I would say as well.
Yeah, I mean, Madrid getting rid of Ronaldo, being able to do it,
Yeah.
and then because Benzema stepped up, and then without Benzema, they have guys like Vinny Jr. step up, and now they're just waiting for those pieces.
And then Bellingham has been
Bellingham as well,
such a great addition for them. I mean, and I think there's a good chance that they eliminate Man City from the Champions League, and then we'll get to see Bayern against Real Madrid maybe in the semi-final, which would be huge. But like, they seem to be in such a really good place right now, you know what I mean? And you have like guys like Toni Kroos extending their contract for another year to help with that transition phase. And, you know, Carlo Ancelotti is there until 2026. He's such a prominent father figure who has like such a good hand on maybe guiding the club. And then I think by 2026, you have really good head coaching options like Julian Nagelsmann, for example, if he stays with Germany, would be available in 2026. Xabi Alonso is another one. It just seems like they're in a really healthy place and a healthy spot. And so I can see that being a good place for Alphonso Davies as well.
I agree. And that's for the last talking point we're going to go to. I'm going to try to transition it quickly, but I agree. I think watching them not like properly replace Benzema and having Ancelotti come back and just being able to get that team performing the way that they were able to, and then they kind of like were careful with the way that they spent their money, and they spent it very well, I think, with Bellingham, and then hopefully,
unlike that other Spanish team,
the other Spanish team, it's falling apart. The one that Davies actually likes, but I do think it would be a good fit. But there's so many good storylines going on right now at Madrid, and you know you're going to want someone coming in to be hopefully in good form and a good mental state. And I don't know exactly what is up with Davies. And again, that's why we're here. But I just, to end off the conversation, I just want to talk about the club itself and what it would maybe mean to Canadian soccer to see someone like Davies. Let's pretend the move happens and let's pretend that the move works. It's a good fit. And you get to watch him join up with Bellingham, with maybe Mbappe, Vinny Jr., Valverde, like this entire beautiful team for the next few, 4 or 5 years, whatever it may be. Do you think that pushes the mark here in Canada a little bit? Just watching someone like that? No? No, he already did that because I remember this.
I think we all got a really heavy reality check during the World Cup that didn't move the needle for Canadian soccer. And we were both aware of what's going on with the CPL and all the issues there, and the Canadian national team, Canada soccer being in a place where it's not financially viable at the moment, right? And we have an interim coach that is increasingly looking like he's going to be the permanent coach. And there's been rumors about Frank Lampard. I mean, that would be a shocking decision if they make him the head coach, considering his track record, big name, not a great coach. But I wish I could be optimistic, but it'd be great for him and his brand, but he'd be still playing second fiddle to some hockey player playing on the fourth line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's just how it is, we recently had Vani Satini come out and speak out about how the soccer market works in Canada, right? And the Vancouver Whitecaps have been the best Canadian soccer team, period. And how much airtime do they get? None. Right, so Davies has been playing for Bayern Munich even the year that he won the treble. Like he had to share his athlete of the year competition, like what's it called again? The trophy that you get for the athlete of the year in Canada. He had to share that with some American football player who no one knows. So it's just not going to move the needle for him personally, for his brand. It's going to be massive, right? Because he will be he's already the most famous Canadian athlete anywhere but Canada. I mean, I try to be flippish about this, but if you ask anyone in Germany who's the most famous Canadian athlete, they will all say Alphonso Davies. And then maybe somewhere on 6th or 7th spot, there will be a hockey player who's Leon Draisaitl, who's actually German, right? So I'm not trying to be ignorant or arrogant about this, but that's just the world that we live in, and so I don't think it would move the needle at all, unfortunately. So
last simple question for you, just what do you think is going to happen? Do you think he'll be playing in Bayern next season or Madrid?
Know.
You don't know? Just 50-50 is your answer?
I even talking to people who know, I just can't give you an answer. I just can't. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, and I hate speculation too in that regard. Like, I think like all of us will just have to wait and see when the decision is made. And either we're going to get a press release with Alphonso Davies signing a new contract, or we will not get a press release, because if he doesn't sign a new contract, we'll just get speculations all summer on whether he's going to join Real Madrid. And then I think it's actually going to play out similar to what happened to David Alaba, right? Who didn't sign a new contract at Bayern Munich. And there was all these discussions and all that sort of thing. And that one is actually a really interesting parallel, because with David Alaba, the one thing that David didn't like was the fact that Bayern Munich didn't appreciate him, to use his quote, right? Wertschätzung in German. And because he was he's a Bayern Munich Academy product, right? And he didn't feel like he received the appreciation from the club to be kept at any cost. And this feels similar, right? I mean, it's not the first time. You can even go back to Toni Kroos, where the same thing happened as well, right? And Bayern Munich have that. They rarely or almost never lose players. And when they lose players, it's because those players were usually a part of their academy products. And I mean, let's be honest here, Davies also played briefly for their second team, right? And he burst onto the scene there as a very young player coming from Canada. He probably too just doesn't feel the appreciation right now. And so this could be a really ugly divorce if it happened. If he doesn't sign a new contract, I think this is going to be a really ugly divorce.
So I thought you were going to give one, say one or the other, or just say 50-50, but you took the third option, which is what I was going to end off with. But I agree. I 100% agree. I wouldn't be surprised, and I won't speculate too much either. Like I said, I kind of want to see him go to Real Madrid, but I do think that
we just don't know, Josh, right? Like no. we and it's such a weird, really difficult situation to read. I see people out there, yeah, he's going to Real Madrid, and I'm like, is he though? He's like, he's going to stay at Bayern. It's like, is he? like we don't know. I don't think anyone does.
No, but it's definitely I mean, it's one of those three things that'll happen. I mean, the free agent route is a bit of a trend, and I could see it potentially happen as well. But that is all the time we have for today. Manuel, I appreciate you coming on as always. Chat, let us know down below if what you guys can speculate all you want. Let us know what you think that he will do. You guys
can go be free, like. Tell us what you think.
Give me some crazy theories. I do like Manuel's third one. I think it makes sense, but I do appreciate the time. It was great seeing you again, and I hope you're keeping well.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's been too long, Josh. Let's do this soon again.